Fred asked me to marry him, he said, I want you to think about this carefully. No matter who I marry, my children will be black. But you have children. And I looked him in the eyes and said, honey, my children will have you for their father. And there is no greater gift that I can give them. And I really got that one right. Yes, it's 1965, and our marriage is illegal in 17 states, including both of the ones that we were born in and the one we sit in right today. The Voting Rights Act is passed, finally, after marchers supporting voting rights are beaten with clubs and whips in Selma. Now it's 1967. We celebrate our son's first birthday with family and friends. Yes, it's 1967, and a major riot takes place around us in Detroit. We stand on the roof of our apartment building, watching fires burn in all directions, running back downstairs when the stray bullets fly overhead. The Supreme Court rules that prohibiting interracial marriage is unconstitutional. Now it's 1968, and we moved to Minnesota, where Fred is on the faculty at the university. The Civil Rights Act of 1968 prohibits discrimination in the sale, rental, and financing of housing. We go to the finance companies to get a loan and are turned down. And in front of the man, I look at my husband and say, bluffingly, honey, I guess we'll just have to see those people at the ACLU. And the loan is granted. And Dr. King is assassinated. The years fly by. Our daughter is born. Our children are growing. We moved to Delaware. And after only 34 short years together, we watched the new millennium joyfully greeted around the world. And the next month, death comes between us. Today, the first decade of this century is already coming to an end. In this decade, Rosa Parks has died, Dr. King's widow has died, and my beloved husband has died. 2 years ago, I sat beside my daughter and cried with tears of amazement and bittersweet joy as we watched a colored, Negro, Black, African-American child, the child of an interracial marriage, become the President of the United States. And that was a mighty day. Since then, I have cried tears of disappointment as I have watched groups within this country treat him like a dog. Archbishop Desmond Tutu tells us that religion and politics are two sides of a single coin. And I think he's right, because they both deal with how we treat one another. It's not enough for laws to be written in books. Laws must be written in our hearts that we might not sin against God. When a terrible event occurs, like World War or 9/11 or slavery, it isn't over when it's over. The shock waves like ripples continue over time. There are ongoing loose threads to be attended to, or the whole thing can fall apart. The Voting Rights Act was passed 45 years ago, but which precincts don't have enough voting machines or have the old ones that break down, like the precincts in Ohio where people stood in line for 8 hours to vote in the last election? There is work to be done. The rate of overall unemployment now is high, but do we see that the current overall rate of employment is lower now than the rate for black men has been for years? There is work to be done. Just this week, at a park that hosts millions of visitors from all over the world, I saw a film on the history of America that told of the Pilgrim struggle without mentioning Native Americans. And the story of the Civil War without mentioning slavery. The only black American mentioned was the Honorable Frederick Douglass, who I suppose must have come over on a QE too. There is truth to be told and retold. There's work to be done. Fire hoses and police dogs aren't used very much now, thanks be to God. But fear, anger, and bigotry are still used as political tools. There is work to be done, and the workers are right here. I think of my own innocence as a child, and of the innocence of a small child we once met in Canada who'd never seen a man of color before he met Fred, who offered his hand for the child's touch. And he rubbed it slightly to see if the brown would come on. And gradually, he noticed that Fred's palm was a different color. And his little face beamed with delight at this new discovery. And Fred lovingly let him turn it up and down. Our beautiful daughter is a teacher. And when I visit one of her classes, she introduces me as her mom. And the kids look at the two of us in disbelief. Look closer, she said. Look at our eyes. Look at our smile. Now do you see? May we all look closer and see there is work